Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are finally back with an F123 video, this time playing online in some open online lobbies. And if you'd like to be part of these lobbies, make sure you click that join button. You will get notified before I set these up because they do fill up very, very quickly. But in this series here, as you can see, we're showing the set that I'm running for Silverstone 2318 wings. Let's go through into the transmission, 50, 52, go into the suspension geometry. We've got a pretty different right, left, left, left. And then as we head into the suspension itself, we've got 41, 15, 81, 32, 34. Heading into the brakes, 155%. And as we head into the tyre pressures, we have got 22.7 on the fronts and 20.4 on the rears. And what I was going to say is I've actually decided to do a little series covering every single track, showing my setup that I'm using in these open lobbies to be as competitive as I possibly can. I'm really just talking through how you can get faster at every single track and start winning your races online. So we're starting at P17 here. And if you like this video and this idea of a series, please leave a like and please let me know down below what track you want to be seeing next. I will be showing my setup in every single one and the ones I'm actually using to be as competitive as possible. And basically for this, really a bit of a freestyle, just talking through what I think you need to be focusing on from a track to track basis and how you can be improving your results as quick as you possibly can. But you can see here, making a pretty chaotic but still actually quite a good start, making up 8 positions. And the best advice I have for the start of the race is just to try and avoid this carnage. You can see, spotting the gaps, putting your car in there, use the ERS if you have to get ahead. You can see we're going side by side, but I know my setup is pretty quick in the straight line. Move back towards the racing line just so I can take cops as fast as I possibly can. And using it a bit again, we've got the CPI Simo behind us, who's another very, very fast driver, and making our way up into P4. So that's 13 positions gained, and really just not being over aggressive on the first lap. Always trying to keep to the inside as much as you possibly can, because a lot of drivers try and go around the outside on the first few corners on lap 1. And the problem with that for a lot of tracks is that most people, when they have a bit of an instant, they get pushed out wide and you'll probably go be collected. So that's a little bit of a tip there. Just try and stay to the inside, find those gaps. You can see Snipes SB is leading this race, who I know is a very fast driver. Actually did a league race season with him a couple of games ago where he actually did pit me to the title, quite annoyingly. So I know he's a pretty fast driver. And you can see here now, got about 70% of the ERS. So what I'm going to try and do is get within the DRS of these two guys up ahead, but not overusing the battery. So trying to save at least 40% going into last lap, because the battery is extremely powerful. So I'm just looking at this delta on the top left hand side, and I'm going to try and get within the DRS of ERL Roman, who seems to be staying with Snipes quite well. Depends if he serves as drive through this lap. Hopefully he continues on for another lap, because that's when the DRS is activated. So you want to try and get someone's DRS whilst using little ERS as possible, and then you can save a lot of battery for the end of the race, because in 5 lappers you really want to be saving as much battery as you possibly can for this final lap. So you can see we're about 6/10 away at this point. You can see he's right up the backside, and we're actually closing on Snipes SB whilst only really using about 10% of the ERS, and you can see he's actually gone for another lap. So this is really good. So now I'm going to try and get within this DRS zone. So we're going to be using the battery here. The detection point is just after this turn 1 before you go into the turn 3. So you can see we keep on using the battery, keep on using the battery. The detection point is coming up just about now, and looks like, let's see, yeah, it's just there, that white line. So let's see if we just get within it, and if we do, the DRS, you can see, yes, we have got within it. So now we're not going to be using any of the battery. We can stay behind, and like I said, we wanted to try and be 40% and above going into this last lap. And with the setup I have on here, is probably a little bit lower than what most people are used to. And I think the misconception people have is they take a time trial setup from an esports driver, another competitive driver, and normally the error is fairly high. You have to remember that in time trial, you have the DRS enabled all times whenever you go across it, and the ERS is unlimited. In terms of a race situation, you have to factor in your ability to save the battery. And most of the time, you might not be having the DRS from the car ahead. So actually, normally, I would say a lower downforce setup is the way to go when you go into a bit more of a competitive sense. Because if you can save people's DRS, you're going to be in a superior position when it comes to how much battery you can use. So that guy's now pitted for the drive-through. And all we're going to do here is just stay behind Snipes. And it doesn't really matter if I'm leading into the last lap or I'm the car behind. If I have more than 50% of the battery, I really don't mind leading to last lap, because that's how much battery you're pretty much going to be using whilst using the full deployment anyway. And DRS is powerful, but because the overtake button is pretty much, I would say, even more powerful than having the DRS, if I have my raw pace plus the battery, then it doesn't matter if the car behind has the DRS. So you can see here now we're above 50%. So right now I don't mind if I'm going to be leading into the last lap or not. I was pretty confident in my pace. I know my setup is very slippery in a straight line, and I probably have more battery than the guys around me because of that very reason. So coming to here, being a little bit affected, but I don't mind overtaking him going down this next straight. And I think he doesn't mind me overtaking him as well. So coming through here, are we going to be using any of the battery? Pretty much the answer is no. So using no of the battery, DRS, the car behind me has got a penalty as well, so I don't really mind even if he overtakes me. And he's thinking back out down the inside, so leaving some room just in case. But we get that redone, and we're entering this last lap with more than 50%. So yeah, I can pretty much almost push as hard as I want now, and that's very important, knowing how much battery you use when pushing a full lap with the ERS. But in this first sector, again, I don't mind if I get overtaken, because I know I have the battery in the last sector to re-overtake again. So not using any of it here, just trying to save it for 2/3 of the lap. And the gap, if it's under 4 tenths, I'll be using the ERS. So if we come up the exit this corner, using a little bit of the battery, but you can see there's a bit of a gap. So I'm actually going to be turning this off quite early, and kind of confirms, as you'll see the gap throughout the rest of this lap, that I was able to save a lot more of the battery. So sometimes it's actually knowing when to use that ERS, so using enough just to get within that DRS zone, but then saving enough so I could be quite superior. And you can see the delta again is just going up and up, going through cops, taking this completely flat out, which you could do, using a bit of it again because the last DRS is on the exit of this Maggots and Beckett section. Flat out through the right, control it through the left, slow in, fast out through the right. And if you just watch this delta, you can see that delta, even with the DRS, is, it's not really going down that much because we still have so much of the battery. Coming on towards the end of the hangar straight, doing this quite nicely. Got a pretty nice gap going to the last chicane, and we have really managed this race pretty much to perfection. And you can see if the input's been super smooth, the setup was working extremely well, crossing a line. That is P1 at Silverstone. That setup has been working pretty much wonders for me for a long time, both in league racing. You can see doing the tactical neck stretching. Lower back has been suffering a bit recently. Always advise you to do that, especially if you're in a formula position. Make sure your back is not nice and tight. But yeah, that is how to go fast at Silverstone. That is just a demonstration of the setup at work. Best thing, avoid the carnage on lap 1, use the ERS efficiently, and really working on those fundamentals. So if you'd like to know that a bit more, I will be doing tutorial videos. Head over to www.coachlimitless.com. I coach on all platforms on how to perfect these fundamentals in terms of trail braking, throttle control, the use of momentum. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a good one, and catch you very soon. Peace.